The wineglass slipped from my hand, shattered against the marble. Red stained the hem of her dress. She didn't flinch, just stood there in my apartment doorway with him, his hand still resting on her back like he'd always belonged there. Like I hadn't. "I'm sorry, James," she said, but her eyes were dry. Mark Tolland, he didn't say a word. His suit was tailored like his arrogance, expensive and perfect. He didn't even look at me. He was already walking her away, his hand tightening on her waist like a trophy he'd just claimed. I couldn't breathe. Not because of the pain, no. That came later. Right then, it was the shock, the unreality of it. 1 minute, she was mine, whispering in my ear, planning vacations, baby names. The next, she was walking out the door in heels I bought to a man I used to admire. 10 seconds. That's all it took. I followed them down the hallway, barefoot, bleeding from the glass. "Emily, you said we were fine. You said—" She turned around, mouth trembling, and for a split second I thought maybe she'd cry, run back, say it was all a mistake. But instead she said, "You're a good man, James, but I need more." He opened the elevator. She stepped inside. He kissed her temple while I stood there like an idiot, like a boy, like someone who didn't matter anymore. The doors closed, and then the silence, not just in the hallway, inside me, deafening. The next day I quit the firm. I boxed up our photos, our memories, and dumped them in a river. For weeks I lived on whiskey and shame. I watched his name on the news, rising fast, big-time prosecutor, perfect teeth, the city's golden boy, and Emily, always beside him, in gala photos, on his arm, no calls, no letters. It took a year to breathe right again. But even after a decade, I never forgot the sound of those elevator doors. Never. It started with a name I hadn't heard in years. "Opposing counsel is Mark Tolland," my assistant said, handing me the case file. I froze mid-sip of coffee, nearly dropped the cup. Mark Tolland, her husband. The man who stood where I once stood. I opened the folder. A corporate fraud case, high stakes, multinational embezzlement, potential jail time. And his client? The CEO of a hedge fund accused of siphoning millions through shell companies. I knew this world, knew how it stank beneath the polish. For a long moment, I just stared at his name. Then I smiled. This wasn't fate. This was a door opening, and I was ready. 10 years had reshaped me. I was no longer the idealistic junior associate in love with a girl who wanted security more than loyalty. I was partner now, known, respected, feared. My courtroom presence was scalpel sharp, and my reputation for burning liars to ash was carved into the city's legal memory. But still, his name? It shook something buried. I dug in. First, I studied him like an enemy in a war room. His trial patterns, his body language, his ego. I watched old footage, read transcripts. Nothing had changed. He was still the golden boy, charming, controlled, but careless with people he thought beneath him. Then I found the cracks. The hedge fund he was defending had Emily on its board. My breath caught when I saw her name. Emily Tolland. Not just a ghost from the past, but part of this machine. And now, part of the investigation. She'd signed off on key decisions. She wasn't just his wife, she was complicit. I could have walked away, let someone else take the case. But I didn't. Instead, I met with my team. I set the strategy. This wasn't about revenge, not yet. This was about the law, about doing my job. At least that's what I told myself. We filed the suit, made it public. Within days, headlines exploded. Power couple tied to fraud investigation. Their faces were everywhere, her smile, his stare, and mine, looming behind the prosecution. We hadn't spoken, not yet. But I knew it was coming. The silence wouldn't last. I waited for it like a storm. It came apart faster than I expected. He cornered me after a preliminary hearing, his charm peeled back like cheap wallpaper. "What is this, James?" he hissed, too close, too polished. "You think this'll make her love you again?" I didn't blink. "I think the law's finally catching up with both of you." His smile was pure venom. "You've got nothing. Emily's clean." But I did, and she wasn't. Still, building the case proved harder than I thought. Evidence vanished. Witnesses backed out. Someone was buying silence. Tolland played dirty, and for every step forward, I lost two. The case began to fray. The press softened. And behind it all, I could feel him, pulling strings in the dark. Then came the subpoena. We pulled internal emails, financial audits, encrypted files. When I finally opened the documents, my heart dropped. Her name wasn't just on the board. She signed the authorizations. Memos, approvals, travel expenses for shell accounts. She knew. I stared at her signature. That same looping E from the love notes she used to leave on my desk. I felt something crack. She wasn't a bystander. She was part of it. I left the office early that night. Drove nowhere. Just kept turning. My phone buzzed a dozen times. My assistant, reporters, clients. But I ignored them. Eventually, I parked outside a bar I didn't recognize. Walked in. Ordered bourbon. 3 hours later, I was drunk. 5 hours later, I was empty. That night, I dreamt of the hallway again, of her walking away, only this time I chased her, caught her, pulled her back, and she screamed, not in fear, in rage, as if I was the one who ruined her life. I woke up on my floor, suit wrinkled, tie undone. There were messages from my firm. The court had dismissed one of our key motions. The judge wanted a meeting. Our case was slipping. I couldn't move. I'd built my life on dignity, precision, strength, and now it was collapsing. Because I couldn't separate her from the law. Because I still saw her as the girl who kissed me on Sunday mornings, not the woman who bankrolled white-collar crime. I'd come this far thinking I was in control, but I was still chasing shadows, still bleeding from old cuts, and for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't sure if I'd ever stopped loving her. That was the worst part, that even now, after all of it, I still wanted to believe she was good. I didn't go back to the office right away. For 3 days, I disappeared. No updates, no phone calls, just silence. Then, on the 4th morning, I shaved, put on my cleanest suit, walked into the firm like I hadn't just watched my world implode. "Reschedule the deposition," I told my assistant. "We're not done." The weakness was gone. I'd buried it somewhere between the bar and the floor of my apartment. What stood now was colder, sharper. I wasn't chasing justice. I wasn't chasing her. I was hunting. And I needed help. That's when I called Mia Santos. She was a forensic accountant I'd worked with years ago, brilliant and brutal. If anyone could find the gaps in Tolland's fortress, it was her. When she stepped into my office, she raised an eyebrow. "You look like hell, James." "Good," I said. "Means I'm ready." She leaned against the table, flipping through files. "So this is the guy she left you for?" I didn't answer. "I'll need full access," she said. "Internal servers, tax records, off-site audits. You're going to owe some favors." "I'll pay them." She paused. "You doing this for the law or for yourself?" I don't remember the difference. We worked non-stop. Mia unearthed financial anomalies, off-book transfers, dummy corporations linked to overseas trusts. The deeper we dug, the more tangled it became. But beneath it all, we found one name repeatedly rerouted through the mess: Emily Tolland. She wasn't a puppet. She was a strategist. She knew how to hide things, just not well enough. I prepped the case like a blade. Every document, every witness, every timeline, it all pointed to a single narrative: deliberate fraud. Tolland might have run the show, but Emily had greased the wheels. They weren't just guilty, they were architects. The night before the final hearing, I stood at my apartment window, staring down at the city. I tried to picture her, tried to summon the girl I once loved. But all I saw was the woman who walked away, and I realized something simple, something brutal. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about truth, and truth, I'd learned, doesn't care about what you feel. It only cares that it's heard. The courtroom was packed. Cameras lined the hall. Reporters whispered my name as I passed. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was theater, and I was ready to take the stage. Tolland sat across from me, jaw tight, tie perfect. Emily was beside him, but not touching. She looked older, colder. But when her eyes met mine, just for a second, I saw it. Recognition, not of the man she left, but the one I'd become. She looked away first. I called my first witness, a former analyst from their firm. Nervous, stuttering, but Mia had coached him well. He outlined the fake transfers, the ghost accounts, how Emily's digital signature appeared on everything. Tolland objected. The judge overruled. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. I kept going. One by one, we brought the case down, nail by nail. Then I introduced the crown jewel. A recorded call between Emily and a compliance officer she'd tried to intimidate. Her voice, cool, controlled, lay bare her complicity. The room went dead. Tolland stood. "Your Honor, we'd like a recess." "Denied," the judge said. He sat, hands clenched. Emily didn't move. I rested my case. And then it was his turn. He tried charm, tried misdirection, tried to paint me as bitter, vindictive. But the evidence was too strong, the truth too loud. He called Emily to the stand. She hesitated. For the first time, truly hesitated. Then rose. Walked slowly. Saturday. He questioned her gently as if they were still alone, as if the world wasn't watching. "Did you knowingly approve fraudulent transfers?" he asked. She looked at him, then at me. "Yes," she said. Gasps, flashes. The judge slammed the gavel for order. I didn't move, because in that moment, everything stopped. 10 years collapsed into that single syllable. Yes. The next day, the ruling came down. Guilty on all counts. Disbarment proceedings for Tolland. Criminal charges pending. I walked out of the courthouse alone. No celebration, no cheers. Just the sound of my footsteps. And the wind. A week later, I visited the river. The same one where I'd thrown her letters. Our photos. That life. The water was still. Not calm. Still. Like it was waiting. I stood at the edge, briefcase in hand, trial documents locked inside, the last echo of her name on any page I'd ever read. I opened the case, took the folder out, and let it fall. One slow arc, one clean break. The papers scattered, caught by the current, sinking, dissolving. I didn't watch them go. I turned and walked away,